Well, as you know, today is the main day of Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's 6-day trip to China. It's been unfolding in the Chinese capital today. We're bringing you the live news across the day during the day here on Sky News. Anthony Albanese met with Chinese President Xi Jinping earlier this afternoon. He says he did raise some of the military incidents with China in this meeting, but did not raise the issue of the Darwin port. Neither was it raised by China. But have a listen to what the Prime Minister had to say about all this. It sounded pretty weak-kneed afterwards.
Well, we raised the issue of Australia's interests, and we raised it in specific contexts as well, that there have been these maritime incidents. And one of the things that we know is that dialogue is a good thing.
Let's get some analysis now from Peter Jennings from Strategic Analysis Australia. Joins us live from Canberra. Good to talk to you again, Peter. After that meeting and the readout we got from it in the press conference from the Prime Minister, what did you make of it?
Well, I think it achieved the objectives of both leaders, which was no surprises, nothing bad, no arguments, large quantities of platitudes and a lack of precision about any issue that was discussed. Anthony Albanese keeps saying that dialogue is always good, but Chris, you've got to ask, if it never gets to points of substance or detail, what's it actually achieving? And I think that China would come away from this thinking that they've got everything they want, which is an Australia which is quieter, which appears to be more distanced from the United States, which is constantly making excuses for China's bad military behaviour in the region, and turning up for more, talking about more cooperation. So I think China gets what it wants, and it seems that Albanese gets what he wants too, which is all of the above, and no criticism, and lots of lavish praise in the Chinese government-controlled media.
We're getting live pictures now of the Prime Minister meeting with Chairman Zhao, what could we compare him to, Peter? The Speaker of the House, I suppose, in democratic terms?
Yeah, I think he's probably about number 3 or so in terms of the Communist Party pecking order. And of course, what that means to say is that wherever he goes, whatever town he's in, he's talking to Communist Party officials, because such is the extent of state control over everything, the media, the police, the judges, social media, that the party rules over everything. And so in a sense, Chris, it doesn't really matter who you're talking to. You're always talking to the party. Yeah,
now, we really got a clear attitude, didn't we, of what China's impressions are of Anthony Albanese and his foreign policy in that editorial from the China Daily, where it just says that he has repaired the relationships after Scott Morrison because he understands China better. And what that's almost saying up in neon lights that they believe that Anthony Albanese has healed.
They have Albanese where they want him,
yeah,
and they have Australia where they want us, which is to say we are playing a more deferential, lower key role, more distance from the United States. If you said to me 10 years ago, what's China's long-term strategic objective for Australia? It would be for Australia with a weak military, with a troubled alliance with the United States, and constantly going to China to ask for more cooperation, more scientific engagement, more exports, more business opportunities. In other words, building all of the elements of dependence, which just a few years ago we were saying to business we should try and diversify. Now we appear to be doubling down on a country which, frankly, in terms of its strategic aims, does not have Australia's long-term interests at heart. So it's really very distressing to see where the Albanese government has taken us after a few years of Australian governments working to, stand more independently against Chinese control. But we're back to exactly where China wants us to be. And I think that's something we should all be really concerned about.
I just wonder about that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Those 3 points where we are where they'd want us to be. One is we're economically incredibly dependent. Secondly, we're weak militarily, and thirdly, the US alliance is on shakier or weaker grounds. I would perhaps add to that our own economy has weakened. We've weakened our own economy by destroying our energy system, which just increases that reliance on them.
Yes, it's interesting, Chris, that back in 2018, interestingly enough, with Malcolm Turnbull as Prime Minister and Scott Morrison as Treasurer, we took the right decision back then to stop China becoming the dominant controller of our 5G network, which I thought was a tremendous victory at the time, and a lot of other countries followed it. Little did I know that, of course, what was going to happen was that Huawei, which was the Chinese company at the centre of that bid, turned itself into the overwhelming producer of converters, power converters for solar panel systems. And so we've made our grid system increasingly dependent on Chinese technology and at the whim of Chinese so-called malign cyber actors. Once again, it's another example of Australian critical infrastructure being under Chinese control, when pretty much everyone else in the rest of the world knows that that's not a good thing. And Australia is off on its own frolic, pretending that through dialogue we can have, a reasoned and relationship of equal with China. No one should believe that. And I wonder even if Anthony Albanese in his heart of hearts really believes that that's what he's delivered.
I've been deeply worried about this, and now after hearing your insightful analysis, I'm even more alarmed about it. Thanks for joining us, Peter. I appreciate it.